Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to Now TV Canada. Uh, I I am just 10 YouTube channel. I am your host 10. So I'm putting this off, putting it off, putting it off, putting it off. Uh, my back. This episode is about my back. Um, so yeah, I guess it's also still talking about Tom Welling. It's also still talking about Smallville. It's talking about my youngest daughter, Sarah. It's talking about this YouTube channel and why it's here now and has been around as long as it is, and the basis for having it. Gee, I don't even know where to start. I did write a little story in the description to help a little bit with everything. But essentially, what happened is at 15 in the wintertime, in the dark, I fell down some stairs outside in the backyard back when you could rent a whole house for $500. um, I was in my partying phase, to put it mildly, and my mom was trying to work at this point, and it was difficult on her. It was very emotional, single mom with a wayward kid because there's problems there between us, not just in my own life outside of matters that she couldn't understand, that she'd not been through at that point in her life because she hadn't been traumatized at 15 the way I had been. Um, and so you try to be brave and suck it up, right? Oh, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. But your lifestyle choices and school issues, well, all of that obviously shows you're not fine. And of course, I did it again. I come back inside the house. She's home. I don't remember if she came home in the process, um, or she was home already when I came inside. I had some friends there around the mild bit of partying that we were doing. So I guess I was a little bit numbed to it and thinking it wasn't that bad, but it was still so bad I wouldn't sit down. I was like standing up against the wall, kind of, it's like standing against a wall. It was in between the two rooms, the dining room area and the living room area of the house. Uh, kind of trying to be brave, right? I handle this. I'm 15. And she's standing co-adjacent to me, like here, looking at my face right this way, right? Do you want me to call you an ambulance? Are you okay? Do you want me to call you some help, medical help, right? So she's trying, right? She doesn't know, right? I'm at an age where what does I'm fine mean? And what does she do when you're dealing with a child that's been out on the streets and in the dark since they were like 12 and running around all day from 9 in the morning to 9 at night since she could ride a two-wheel bicycle back in a time where all the kids were outside from 9 in the morning till the sun went down in the summertime. Like back in my day when we were kids, from New York to LA, like everybody uh, was safe enough and it was a free enough time and parents were relaxed and laid back enough where the kids could ride their bicycles to their friends' places, the townhouses across the street or the other buildings, a part of the housing facility, whatnot. Um, and you could go as groups when you get to certain ages to like the local outdoor pools. Like you had some freedom to go and have fun. Roller skating, the kind of skates where you put your shoe into it and actually turn the key and use the straps. We had banana seat bicycles, so you could actually balance three people, a person on the back and somebody on the bars. I got my first banana seat bike when I was 5. Um, so life was different. So it's not just about, parenting choices and neglect. Okay. So it's not all on a parent around discipline. It was just life at that time. It's the way things were. Today, you can't have the freedom to do that because there's so much more danger and crime. And there was crime happening in this country too, but you didn't know about it. It wasn't being talked about. It wasn't front page news. And that makes it more dangerous and scary, considering that this is supposed to be Canada, a place where people were supposed to be safe and able to come here with their families and have holidays and stuff. And lo and behold, if you come in from another country to do tree planting for the summer, and you don't get to go home, didn't get to enjoy your money. Well, I guess, I guess maybe we should publicize more of this stuff. Nonetheless, other than some physical damage and things with my teenage years, I'm lucky I survived it. But this falling down the stair thing caused a problem that kind of never went away, never healed, because in spite of her going, do you want me to call an ambulance? Did you need some help? I kept saying, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. It'll go away, it'll get better, I'll be all right. And I stood against that wall, essentially outside of going to the bathroom very difficultly. I pretty much stood against that wall for like 2 days. So it was the kind of back injury where I should have been put on what they call it, a spine board, right? Where like you're there on the board and they're rotating you around. So you get different views seen and they're dealing with circulation and stuff. So I should have probably had a super high powered x-ray at that time, and or CAT scan then. But I never went to the hospital. So one day led to two, 2 days led to three, three led to a year led to 5, and then it led to birth. But I got married and had my first child, and I made the stupid mistake of deciding to go to the Toronto hospital at the last minute. His friend, Mike, had to drive us from Mississauga. I so stubborn because I wanted the birth certificate to say Toronto, Ontario, Toronto General Hospital. Like, I'm like, no, she's going to be born in Toronto. So, and I wasn't. I was born in British Columbia from Prince Rupert, right? I'm an ocean and mountain baby. So I make this guy drive us from Mississauga to Toronto in labor. Anyways, they put an epidural in me. Now, I had never had my back checked from the time the injury happened to the epidural. And only in the moment where they were putting epidural in did I suddenly become frightened. I got so frightened that my entire world came flashing before my eyes and the whole world stopped. And I had never been more afraid in an instant than I was right then, because I realized exactly where they were poking, because I could feel it. And suddenly the memory came back to me like it was just happening all over again, that they were near the spot that I had injured when I fell down the stairs in the wintertime in the backyard of the house in Winnipeg, North End. And I just held on to my breath for dear life. But I did not move, and I was lying on my side. Baby's coming. She's in me. She's big. I didn't want to be paralyzed at the birth of my first child. This is not a good thing. And it occurred to me that doctors are not perfect, not the smartest, knives in the drawer sometimes. You should have always known to check medically, right? There should have been some sort of background of questions on past things. Somewhere in my records, there should have been something noting the fact that I have talked about falling down the stairs, or that a question would be asked that would make me have to talk about falling down the stairs. So then a doctor could ask about the falling down the stairs and the back thing. And a really responsible doctor would, have the back checked and then say, well, guess what? The epidural is out. So you can't lie on your back in a hospital room, birthing room. And it turned out that being on my back was like the worst decision ever. It was the most horrible thing for me because I'm so natural. I get up, walk around, move. Like a birthing chair, anything was better than what they did. That it was awful. So she got into the world and everything was fine. But I never forgot about that injury again. Like I never forgot about that spot. And I had learned, by the grace of the luck, that nothing permanent was done damage wise in that spot, not to ever do an epidural again. right? God quickly knocking on my head. Don't do that twice. So I'll never have another epidural. It never happened. And I'm my second birth, nothing like that. Like so much easier, so much less complicated. Listening to God and getting it right. It was just ridiculous, the difference between the first and the second. Nuts. Now I will say this: from the time the epidural went in to the birth of my firstborn, it happened in 42 minutes when they broke the water. Right? 42 minutes, 12:42 a.m. or something, right? The second one, the labor was longer, but there was less pain, and it was just a jab in the leg with Demerol. And I basically gave birth to her in a toilet bowl. Head out, natural position, everything was fine. She got washed and cleaned off like right away, and then everything was out, and I'm on the floor. I was in the news because I was on a contract up north in Fort St. John, BC, where this security site was watching for the new hospital being built. And I was also snooping around crime scenes with the Highway of Tears stuff. Anyways, back to the back. There are downfalls to epidurals. If people know their research on epidurals, then you know that the more epidurals you have, the more side effects there's going to be, the more difficulties around pain and other issues, like even maybe, reflexes and stuff, right? You're damaging your spine or at risk of causing nerve issues, whatever. But at any rate, you're going to increase problems around pain for sure. So I started to experience a little bit of that just from the one time. And then, of course, magnify that around the disc that never got fixed. So when my daughter got a little older and we were moved, we left Toronto and went to Winnipeg to be around my mom, family support and stuff. And she had sort of convinced us. Again, I fell for the mom thing. This is the 8 Mile part of my story. 8 Mile. No, 8 Mile. Way past 8 Miles. So we're in Winnipeg realizing, oh, this might not have been a good idea. But at this point, I was really happy with this little blue house that I had gotten on 5 acres that I was paying $500 for the house, and I had this beautiful little cul-de-sac, this little private drive-through. You could have like the toys I loved because I love to drive all kinds of big vehicles. So I could have like a big school bus, and I could have a truck and a trailer, and I could have a van, and I could have my little collection of cars I like to restore and fix up and learn how to do body work on. And I have a garden, and I could do like outdoor laundry and have a clothesline and still have a garden. What I really, really, really loved about it was that the 5 acres, I didn't pay for it. It was just there, and it was beautiful. Like, I suppose if I'd had won the right to buy and own that place, I would have just called it 5 acres, right? But my brain was worrying, like what I would do with this if I could just build a life here. So moving forward from there, obviously, as a writer, and obviously connecting to Tom's life in Charlie Baker and Smallville, I couldn't stay. You have to keep going to keep growing. But while I was there, I wanted to try and start dealing with my back problem. And my daughter was 3 or 4. This was towards the end of the marriage. This is why I was in the blue house, because I had separated from him. There had been a restraining order put against him once already. Of course, he didn't listen. He was the kind of guy. This is why I moved to the country. He literally would take the bus to the very last stop in the city, and then he would walk. With the amount of energy that it would take, right, to do that. The insistence of, want to keep this together or boom. But so he would come to the house and try to play nice, be the good dad or whatever. And I decided to go to the chiropractor because he's around, and I just can't not take advantage of having somebody help with the daughter. So I went to the chiropractor. And again, the chiropractor did not send me for x-rays. He didn't check the back information or any of that stuff. And the chiropractor does this stuff on my back. that taught me a lesson. Oh my goodness, the rest of my life I'll never do again. The difference of quality of care, and learning the hard way. What he did to my back needed so badly from when I was 15 that it caused such severe swelling and compression, on my spine, um, that I was basically bedridden, for 10 days. I was literally walking with a walker. And it was so fast, shut me down so quick, and it was so bad that I had realized how severe this problem was. And I was so upset and, scared, because it had been like this since I was 15, and I had no idea that it had been that, uh, important to have checked. Um, it was hard to get through those 10 days. It was so hard to go to the bathroom, to get out of the bed and stuff, and have my little girl see me like that, and have to lean on some guy I'm trying to get away from, and be at risk of not knowing whether he's going to be calm or volatile, which put me even, in a worse, situation of vulnerability than ever. Um, but I have learned good chiropractors are going to do a background check. Good chiropractors should always do the research on all of your injuries, the things that have happened, that have gone wrong in your life, and have the common sense to know that if there's anything wrong with your back, if there's been any history with things around your back, that you need to go for x-rays. They need to see the x-rays, CAT scans. They have to have an idea of what they're dealing with, so they know what they're manipulating, what they're crunching, moving, or shouldn't be touching, and sending you to a different appropriate form of medical care to deal with, so that they don't make something worse or permanent. And so, in effect, this probably did make it worse, not better. Um, but I had learned the injury that I had could have led to permanent paralysis just from the simple act of going to a chiropractor. So that makes me feel like, where's Jean Claude Van Damme? It's like Jean Claude Van Damme in my head telling me, don't ever go to a chiropractor as long as you live. Because once you start going to the chiropractor, you can't stop. At any rate, I backed away from having belief and faith in chiropractors, and I didn't go. I didn't keep going. I have since then managed to find, through research, doing things right, knowing how to find a good and responsible chiropractor, and talking about what happened where I was on the walker and basically paralyzed and in bed and couldn't move. A chiropractor that was, careful about what he was doing, and having done all the right tests and stuff before any manipulating was done. I believe in chiropractors because of what happened to me as a kid. I've had both of my legs broken at different times of my youth growing up. That's why this video is titled, "The Baseball Guy Disease." So if you know anything about Rickey Hill, the baseball guy, and the degenerative disc disorder, and him being in leg braces and having surgeries and stuff, and just practicing how to swing a bat and hit rocks because he had this dream of wanting to be a baseball professional. Um, while he was being diagnosed growing up and having these problems, I was just chasing after his heel. I was having my own situations going on while he was having that life go on, and having that relationship with Jesus, having faith with Jesus. That's one of the reasons this video didn't get made sooner today, because I was kind of having this tear jerking moment of connection between him and me, and our faith and story with Jesus, and knowing when heaven is with you. And even if you don't know it, then that later on you do, right? Um, but in those moments when you do know, um, so I'm just fortunate that I didn't have a bunch of surgeries or pins put in my legs, and had to learn how to walk with braces, and just learn how to walk again in that same effect that he had gone through, but because he was born with this disease, and grew up with it, rather than, coming into it later on. So what happened at 28, around that time when I was trying to get away from him in my first marriage, We were living close to a pretty good clinic, pretty good um, X-ray facility. It was top of the line, top-notch machine equipment. So I knew that Jesus was with me. Again, I knew God was with me. Heaven was with me. Good Lord. It's so Rickey Hill, the baseball guy. I'm like, this doctor, his name's Dr. Sud. He came from some other country. And he just wanted to be a good doctor. He was simple, quiet man, very polite. But he listened and he heard me. And he understood that what I was telling him was real. And he didn't think twice, didn't hesitate. He sent me for the X-ray from that clinic, just literally just down the street from where he was taking over the practice, that had like my history there from my childhood. That's just one of the places that had my history of, but he wasn't looking at my childhood asthma allergy issues. He was listening to what was happening now. And the X-rays come back, and he was just so dead serious. Like, the guy was so sincere and honest and just a doctor. And it was so refreshing after all that time to see somebody who was actually just sent there for the purpose of helping me. And he circles the spot on the X-ray, and he tells me some of the worst news of my life. At 28, a new mom, in a really bad relationship, dangerous, trying to get out of it at this point. I didn't want to hear it. That's not why I went to see him. That's not what I had been worried or afraid about. I mean, I don't know if it's better or worse than what I was worried about. So hang on. He says to me, no, it's legit. You definitely have a problem. It's your L5S1. Now, I don't know much about the spine. Maybe I thought L5S1 was like a string of discs, but apparently it's just a specific bulge in this spot here, this one area. So that would be the most severe bulging disc of the problem in my back. And he says, you have early onset arthritis. Hearing the words early onset arthritis at 28 sucks. It was terrible to hear that at 28. That was crushed. Because, I mean, immediately I'm thinking, but I'm only 28 and I'm a new mom. And I'm thinking, maybe I might want to have another one without an epidural someday. I was trying to actually get out of that marriage with two from the same guy, so I wouldn't have to worry about it. That God didn't agree with that. So that plan didn't happen. It was just no. So this doctor is telling me not what I went in there thinking. And so he says it's called degenerative disc disorder. And that's about all he told me. That's about all I knew. I never went to a library, researched papers. I didn't read anything about it. I didn't know anything about Rickey Hill. I don't watch baseball. I'm not in America. I've never sat through 9 innings of a game. I've never gone on that long of a date with anyone. So I was devastated. This is not what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear that the problem could be fixed. I wanted to hear that I could go and have, some acupuncture and some manipulation with thumbs and acupressure and other things that could, pop it out of the bad position it's in and pop it back into its proper place, and that it would stay in that position properly the rest of my life and everything would be fine. But telling me that I have a specific condition of arthritis that's going to continue to deteriorate, that was just not what I was hoping to hear. What sent me to him wasn't just because of the thing with the chiropractor. It was, sorry, a friend, Nicole, she should just be watching live stream. So, I was having issues with mobility. I was having issues with movement, paralysis, numbness, tingling. I got so scared because I have a child to raise. She's like 18 months, 2 years old, and I was alone. I was trying to walk. and I took a step. I was leaving one room, going into another room of my house, and I lost complete feeling, um, immobility, movement altogether down my entire left leg. And my left leg's not the one I broke 4 places. When I broke my left, it was just the bottom part, like my ankle area, right? That part of my leg. Um, so I got so scared. Oh, do I have MS, muscular dystrophy? Am I going to get my grandpa's disease? Does Parkinson's run in the family? Can I get it? Right? It's not an inherited thing I've learned later, but apparently there was like a history of somebody that tried to join the military 3 different times, moved to different places, and he kept getting sent away because of epilepsy. So I was just worried that I had some sort of lineage thing, right? But I wasn't thinking anything like that. So I went away crushed because chiropractor, massage, acupuncture, acupressure, cupping, that stuff wasn't going to work on this problem. And I just wanted to have a solution. Anything was better than surgery. I don't want anyone touching my spine. I want no one to take a scalpel to my back. I don't want anything removed from there because God made it that way. And I want it to go, to the other side still intact that way. And the reason for making this video ultimately is because of the 3 people in my life. Well, Ozzy Osbourne was not in my life, but obviously I grew up affected by Black Sabbath. I cannot tell you how much that band was part of my life in the dark growing up as a kid. My drugs years and stuff. I just, it's so disappointing that I never got to go to a concert of his, that we never met, being that I'm from the United Kingdom, that I have English lineage. But when he was talking about his story at the end, where he had made the mistake thinking that having the surgery on his back would help, and that it was the most painful thing he ever did, and that he had never stopped being in pain, and it was awful, and that it ultimately is what caused his life to come to an end. And he had made that statement telling everybody, don't do it. Don't go for spine surgery. But the thing he said where he's like, no more tears. And I had said, okay, I'm not going to cry, right? Because I listened to his music so much. Those hard years, that music, everybody growing up in that world together, we were doing it together. We had each other. We leaned on one another. We understood each other. We understood the lyrics, the songs, the message. We were all in it together. The dark. We were all struggling with the same issues, or different kinds of similar issues. So when he said no more tears, of course, a few days later, it hits me. Everything that was going on around my back problems and my other 2 stories and his story. And all of a sudden, the tears, right? When you hear him saying, Mama, I'm coming home. And so I was upset because there was a connection between his back and my back towards the end of his life. And I had no idea that it was him. I was sleeping on my side. It was to the point where I was in so much pain. I can only get out of bed on one side. And it's killing me now because I didn't know anything about what he was going through when he was trying to recover from having made the decision to have the surgery. But his symptoms and what he was going through is exactly what I was going through. And I hadn't had the surgery on my back. And I have managed to avoid surgery on my spine from 28 to now. And all of the time I spent moving around to different provinces and doctors, I spent trying to get somebody to give me a deeper test. I wanted further results. I wanted to know more. Let's check out what's going on with my nerves, please. Muscles, strength issues, and stuff. I was so prone to being klutzy and tripping and stuff. And even if I'm looking and I can see where I'm going, I'm still tripping. And my brain is getting frustrated because I'm like, why? What is going on with the messages and the signals in my body that this is happening, right? To random, ordinary people, it just looks like maybe I'm klutzy. And maybe in that Clark Kent, Smallville sort of sense of way that you do that would look like that on camera, and you could cut and just keep the scene. But it's not that. It's not funny because it's not being faked. It's really happening. And as I get older and get tired from walking and moving around by transit so much and carrying stuff on my back, my legs got to a point where I couldn't lift my feet properly. They just started dragging, taking the steps. I can't carry myself enough. So I'm like, I need to drive. I have to have a car. And it takes a while to get proper diagnosis in order to get funding from different departments of governments that allow you the ability to have the freedom to be able to drive because you medically require it. And so you have the affordability for these things. But to this day, since Ozzy Osbourne has passed from this world, um, I still struggle with sleeping on my sides and flipping over onto my stomach without thinking about him and what's happening to me and why it was happening. But essentially, I can only get out of bed on my left side. And it's hard because it's a bad sign with where I'm at in my life. Like one doctor once said to me, like, you need to sleep on the floor. You need to sleep on a hard surface. Doctor serious, straight. Like, I mean, for the rest of your life, like, he'd be so happy if I never slept in a bed. Basically, the doctor's like, I just want you to sleep on a spine board. um, but I had two other people. I had a friend named Michael. He's a poster boy. He was part of this implementation for universal basic income, the basic income program we were trying to do here in Ontario. He got cancer in his spine. And the doctors thought foolishly, well, we'll try and save you. And they go to cut out the cancer and they remove the cancer, but then they screw up on something. And they paralyzed him from the waist down. And they don't apologize with giving him any money. And so he goes from being a working guy, working class level, walking normal, to poverty. And he didn't get enough help. And the constant time in wheelchair and stuff causes infections and sores, and you get put in the hospital, antibiotics, try to get you better and send you home. And then finally, after 10 years of this horrible cycle, and I'd been to his place and seen what they weren't doing for him, and so upset because they owed him money so he could have a finer life, to be taken care of, because they took away his ability to work. Because then you smell funny and you can't wear good enough clothes. It's pretty hard to have a job. And if your home is not in a good enough condition, you're not in a good enough state of mind to be able to work from home. So I was pretty upset for him. And then when he got that approval to be a part of the provincial basic income program, he was so happy because the money would change his life. It'll be enough to get by and do things, and he can enjoy like holiday, Christmas, and buy gifts for people that matter to him. So the long and the short of it is, just after the last time I spoke with him at that Christmas, nobody wondered who was there with him in Hamilton locally, where Martin Short's from. I can't understand your sisters, your brothers, your families. They're all there. People who knew you fighting, crawling up the Parliament stairs for the rights to be treated like a human being, and understand that you weren't born that way. You weren't always that way. And you shouldn't act like that a person's an allergy or to be allergic to them or something across the street or walk around or away from them. It's just horrible how people behave when they're different. They don't have their legs and can't walk around like us. Like, you don't know their story. Don't jump to conclusions. And he dies alone in his apartment. And he decomposes for 2 months in that apartment. And nobody noticed. Nobody came to visit. No PSWs, no healthcare, no social workers. Like, what's going on? Like, Christmas had just passed, right? So finally, somebody was like, okay, I haven't heard from my brother or whatever. And so they go in and they find him, and the animals were still alive. 2 dogs, cat. And I was like, whoa. And all of this happened because he had spine surgery. All of this happened because doctors cut open his back. This is not right. He shouldn't be left behind, in my mind, or anybody who knew him. or anything he fought for over having spine surgery. So Ozzy Osbourne was right. If you're having back problems and it's not going to help you, if it's absolutely not like the best Chinese doctor on the planet, Japanese surgeon on planet, if it's not like titanium, if it isn't guaranteed to straighten you up, give you height and fix everything and not rot and stay in place forever, don't do it. You will live longer and just be fine, right? So losing his ability to walk, but having the cancer removed, he only lived an extra 10 years. We don't know how long he could have lived if he had just taken treatments and fought the cancer. He could have gotten more and he could have worked, whatever. The point is, I knew I wasn't going to do it. There was a woman who had a documentary made. She did this. She also had a surgery done, and they showed it. She showed it. It's some stupid little post that they put in there to try to give some weight or protection in her spine. And you can actually see that her spine looked fine. There was no damage, no bulging or deteriorating discs. The height and the square and the shape, everything looked fine. So if it looked fine, they shouldn't be putting anything in her back. If she's having back pains and she's hurting, maybe bending over, stretching exercises, acupuncture, massage, yoga, Pilates, whatever. But you could see that the post is causing more pain. And now the post is the problem. It's not actually the pain from the spine or the spine itself that she was originally upset about. But it was so bad, the pain and her pills, the morphine and stuff, is like, I can't live like this. At that time, it wasn't legal to do euthanasia in Canada. You couldn't take your life. You had to go to places like Switzerland where it was already approved. So that was the documentary, that she took her life and she had to go through all this process, spend all this money, take this trip to Switzerland and be found fit for the purpose of ending her life. And that's what happens. She took her life in Switzerland. So that's the other story. And then Ozzy had the surgery. And then he's like, don't have the surgery. So now at 50 and I get the MRI results, I'm like stuck, right? Because I can't have the surgery. This is pretty small print on the MRI, and I'm not trying to read the whole thing. So I'm just trying to figure out how or help me. I'm trying to find. So it's like 5 discs. It's 5 different spots. I'm just trying to narrow it down. Okay, so L1 to 2, it has the bilateral facet arthropathy. I can't even say this stuff. Sorry, the sun in the back window there. They say mild in the MRI, right? But I'm living with this. And I made this video today because of what just happened today. And I just really wished I had it recorded and people could have heard my reaction. Saying high pain threshold is just minimizing it. I cannot tell you. So the next one is right next to it, L2 and 3, also loss of disc height. And then also the mild bilateral facet atrophy and mild generalized disc bulge. So that's a disc bulge, the L2-3, and it has a reduction in height, and then the arthritis, and then the central stenosis and moderate left femoral compromise. Okay, so this one disc has multiple things going on in my back, changing disc height, be arthritis, it's bulging, and it's compressing, it's pushing up against one of my nerves in my spine. And so I was so relieved that the numbness and tingling and reduction of reflexes from the time I had the CAT scan in Kitimat finally being answered in a way that explains that I was not crazy in the things that I was living through. When I started having trouble swallowing and the communication signals weren't going through and it wasn't moving, I started getting really scared. When that thing happened with my leg, I thought multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy or something, right? Like I'm going to end up bedridden or something. It was so scary when you can't have the swallow signals working. So all of it's connected to the spinal cord and the nerves and what's going on. So the next one would be the L3 and L4, where there's another loss of disc height. And then there would be a type 2 modic change, bilateral facet, same thing with the arthritis, and broad-based left femoral protrusion. So this one is like literally protruding. So this is part of why my back snap, crackles, and pops. So this one is pretty bad, protruding with moderate left compromise. So it's pinching again against the nerve. Now the L4 and L5 also has the arthritis and has issues with disc height, and it's going the other way. This one has the right subarticular protrusion. So I have one that's protruding left and one that's protruding right, and it's pinching against a nerve. So it's got the narrowing, and I can't even read this, narrowing of the left foramina L3, 4, and this could affect the left L3 nerve root. Okay, so this is what's happening. And then the compromise at the right lateral recess at the L5 S1. Right, so there's the one that originally started the conversation with Dr. Saad when I was 28 in Winnipeg, but I didn't know that was one disc. I thought it was like a series of discs. So this one says it affects the traversing right S1 nerve root. Essentially, I have multiple discs being pinched, multiple spots in my nerves that these discs are pinching against. And paralysis happens when it's completely compressed and you lose oxygen and blood flow permanently. If the nerves don't have that, the blood flow and oxygen, nerves will die. And if the nerves die, then you lose your ability to move. You become paralyzed. And so the reason I was so desperate to have this MRI so long ago was because of the traumatic experiences I was already have with dropping things, limping and finding myself caving at the knees, wasn't able to hold my weight, wasn't able to stay up and keep walking, not being able to fully lift my legs properly. When I'm taking steps and walking, my legs were like in this state of dragging rather than stepping, and then tripping, even though I'm actually looking at my feet walking, and then swallowing. And then, of course, all the reflex tests that were done by different doctors where my body just wasn't responding. Nothing, dead. And they're like, okay, that's not normal. That's not right. You're like, just there's no response. Your body's just not doing anything. You know, with those funny looking diamond things they tap you with. So I'm like, yeah, right. See something. So it's so very invisible to the naked eye that it took 35 years to finally find out that from the time I was 28, well, basically since I fell down those stairs at 15, 35 years. So in all of that time, these discs are bulging and losing height, and they're twisting in different directions. So you got one going one way, one going the other, and they're pinching against nerves. But there's still some movement that keeps them from completely compressing. So I haven't lost complete mobility. There's air, there's oxygen and blood getting through still. Part of what saved me was that I got into yoga. I got into Tai Chi, Pilates, restorative yoga, because I've kept walking. I don't stand for too long and I don't sit for long anymore. I love driving, but I couldn't do long haul driving for 20, 30 years and be in a truck without stopping other than to go to the bathroom for 16 hours because I have to have circulation going. In this condition with what I have, the longer I sit, the more risk I have of actually causing my own paralysis, causing the compression to actually shut down the oxygen and the blood flow. So now that I know for sure by this diagnosis, I can help prevent and avoid and try to reverse some of the arthritis, because arthritis can be controlled. You can reduce its state of severity, and you can actually reverse some of the damage and make it slow down. But you can't do that if you don't know what's going on. And so one of the discs is pretty severely bulged. And today, this crunch effect happened. Like all of these discs, they just all went off at once. And literally, a person who's not used to this snap, crackle, pop stuff happening, if they had just experienced what I had today, there would have been like blood curdling scream, right? And I was like, ouch. So it doesn't even come close to try to explain what's going on in my back and how that feels and how much it frustrates me that even with this MRI result and the guy that did it, he's still writing the word mild. And I'm like, dude, like I'm living with this every day. I'm having these problems with all of them going off and pinching nerves in different places all at the same time. Trust me, it isn't mild, right? It's a problem. And I'm just worried about the bulging disc, the one that's the worst, that causes the most problem, and what to do about it because of where it's located, right? Because the L4 and below is paralysis. And in this list of the discs that are losing height and bulging and pinching nerves, the L4 is in that list. And the L5S1, thankfully, that's just above it. So I'm just right at the line on what would happen if the best spinal cord surgeon in the world put a titanium, let's give you some height increase, let's fix your spine and straighten you up again, kind of magic. What that would do with the L4 and the rest if they're deteriorating and losing height and still pinching against the nerves anyway. And so that's where I'm at. But when I watched the baseball movie of Rickey Hill, I learned then to understand what I had. And watching his movie, just I kind of lost it, right? It hit me then. I'm like, I have the baseball guy's disease. And this MRI was proof of the conditioning worsening from the time I was given that x-ray result at 28 with early onset arthritis, and him saying it's degenerative disc disorder. The doctor side was right. He told me the truth. But I didn't get it. It didn't register. It wasn't in my head until I watched the baseball guy's movie. And I'm like, I have the baseball guy's disease. And when Ozzy Osbourne passed away, I didn't know about the surgery that he had had. I wasn't following the details of his personal life like that. I don't know why people do. It's none of our business. I didn't know how many kids Eddie Murphy had or Mel Gibson had. Like, I didn't know anything about certain things for so long until it was kind of like necessary or happenstance just kind of let me know. And it's like, oh, I didn't know that. Well, that's interesting. So it was hard for me because I got hit. He's dying. He's saying to everybody, I'm dying, all at once, with the surgery and the pain he was in and recovering and what I was going through physically at the exact same time. The way he was describing how he was lying and moving and unable to move, and how he was getting out of the bed and stuff. And I'm like, that's what I'm going through. That's my story. That's me. And I haven't had any surgery. So connected. It was so deep. And then having him say, don't have the surgery, I was so upset because his life got shortened. And that's the third person in this situation with me. And what do I do about my back? And so I was trying to tell the story sooner because of Ozzy Osbourne. But I couldn't bring myself to do that. I needed some time to deal with it. Like, I haven't even sat down and allowed myself to spend a couple hours, listening to all of the Black Sabbath music. I can't even tell you how much time I spent listening to Black Sabbath alone in my room at night, in the dark, my ears on drugs, my punk phase, my grunge phase, whatever. I was never like the biker. I never did the just rock and roll thing. It was just always very traditional United Kingdom English girl. That was through and through Sex Pistols up, right? Like, I knew all about my English music, but I'm grateful I had that time. It made a difference on so many of us, I think. But it's very sad to see life come to an end and shortened for people because of making one quick decision or impulsive decision or wrong decision, period, about one's health condition and situation. And so his life's been shortened, and it's by far regretful. The last time he sang publicly and everybody's listening to him, he's like, oh, I can't sing anymore, can't sing. And I listened, I heard, and he's sitting there in the chair. He's in his throne, right? Like what is he called? The king of the night, right? Like the Lord of Night, whatever. And he's still singing like a superstar, champ. His voice was just pure music. It's magic. And so it hurts so bad. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. But because of this problem, it connected me on an even deeper level. When he's saying, Mama, I'm coming home, and his voice is so bloody perfect still, beautiful. And the video they made of him going backwards to the beginning of when he was young, and just stunning. And that he was wearing his cross and his faith in God and that good boy and all of that. So perfect. And I thought it was brilliant that somebody went the other way with his story, and it was the right thing to do. And I'm glad I finally had the time to share my story in this movie and the struggle I'm having with me dropping things, swallowing, walking, bending at the knee and things. And I thought maybe it was just, some fibromyalgia with my background of life and hard knocks, bad choices, eating disorder, and whatever issues. And it's not. It's a condition that is going to get worse. And the questions constantly arising around surgery and surgeons and what to do is going to be ongoing for me. But for the moment, I'm going to go on a camping trip, and I'm going to do what that one doctor said. I'm going to lie on a yoga mat in a sleeping bag in a tent. I'll do that kind of stuff as often as possible, as long as possible, twist and turn and snap, crackle, and pop myself with as little pain as possible, and try to avoid pain meds as much as possible. However, I am now allowed to have some, gratefully, and they realize I'm not drug seeking. And I'm just really in pain, and it's now for that purpose. So I'm okay. That only when it gets to a point where I can't move or sleep or do anything, if I don't, I have medication to get me well enough to do these things. So that said, if I keep using all the other stuff, hopefully I'll keep walking and not lose mobility and not be put in a chair, and still be alive and be able to continue to write and get the chance to still do some acting and finish my lifeguard course and become governor and whatever. Just the goals I have, while I can still move. So that's my story about having the baseball guy disease and what it happens when you put off medical treatment, hospital visits, x-rays and things. When parents are like, okay, you say you're fine. I'll take your word on it. You're fine. And then they don't call an ambulance anyway. At the end of my marriage, when I finally got that thing with the filing of the divorce thing, and he knew, um, this was just over the top part. Standing on the top of the stairs, this time it's outside, middle of the day of our store, Reality Impaired, where we sell comics, movies, CDs, and all kinds of stuff. Because I was always part of this industry, video games, whatever. It was just a natural part of all of this generation of things. Um, the divorce was happening, right? And he was like, "I'll never go to the courts. I won't be there." But he pushes me from those stairs. And I was like, of course, right? What a perfect ending to the marriage, the birth, the epidural, set of stairs, and the marriage coming to an end. And he pushes me backwards off the small flight of stairs, which was rather similar to the stairs I have here now in this apartment in Gatineau. And height and distance for the backyard stairs at 15. And I fall down on the ground. I go flying backwards and land on my back. And then he jumps like a wild animal, blah, in the jungle, down on top of me in the middle of the day. And I'm like, yeah, okay, what a perfect ending, right? This whole story about the back. Thankfully, this was in the middle of rush hour, in the middle of the day. Some guy in a truck had his window open and he saw the whole thing and he's screaming out his window at Danny and going, "What are you doing to that woman? Get off that woman and leave her alone." And obviously he's not an abuser, wasn't a dangerous person, whatever. And instantly that deflected that rage and emotion to another target. And he looks up at the guy and he gets up off of me, runs out into traffic that's moving around, into the guy's face, into the truck. And, "You stay out of the business I'm having with my wife," whatever he said. You stay out of my business you stay out of my business with my wife. Which of course was the point of my being there that day, was that I'm not your wife. You were never my natural born choice. This was never an option for me. I was not given the option. All of these things were taken away from me. So I'm leaving you. I'm done. This is it. I've had enough. You wouldn't do anything to help yourself, and I just can't do everything. I don't have 8 arms, and I have a kid to think about, right? A life to live, stay alive, her and me both. So thankfully to the guy in the truck in that day and the cop that came and the cops that came, the car I got into safely sat in the back seat of to figure out what I'm doing, you under press charges and whatever, right? So all that's done behind me. The second child's now turning 16, who's Bruce Wayne's daughter. And I'm just trying to keep walking and be mobile and still be around for her. And the second child is about an open adoption that didn't go right. And again, it has to do with Tom Welling when he was married to Jamie White and Smallville, the TV show, and all the work I had already had done in my notes section on Facebook page and the stuff I did know about, which all started around the death of Heath Ledger and meeting Brad Pitt and G. So I will end here on that and come back and talk more about the open adoption thing on another episode of Let's Talk About Tom Welling, now that I've told everybody about my back. I'm hoping that I'll still be able to find Mr. Right somewhere in Europe, somewhere in a world where he's taller than me, but not too tall, where he's strong enough to carry me, lift me up and be my hero and stop me from, dragging my feet, not being able to carry myself, can see that I'm uncomfortable or that I'm limping, and say, "What's the matter? Did you need some help? Here, let me help you." And have that feeling to know what it's like to have somebody carry me in their arms the way Jesus wrote that poem about footprints. Well, bless somebody with the words to write it, where he's like, "It is then that I am with you, that I carry you when there's only one set of footprints." So that's sort of how I'm hoping things will go one day. But in the meantime, I'm glad I finally shared this with you guys. So like Ozzy Osbourne said, don't have surgery as often as humanly possible. If it has to do with your back or your spine, at all costs, avoid having surgery. Just don't do it. do all kinds of other naturopathic options, research, learn, take care of yourself, change your diet, lifestyle, health, weight. Which, by the way, the weight loss from my post-gastric recovery, my revision surgery is ridiculous. I'm like so afraid I'm going to end up in a hospital on whatever kind of system they have to like keep me going, because whatever I'm having now is going right through me and nothing staying on me. So stay tuned for what that's going to look like when I get back to Vancouver. But you could see in one of my cooking videos recently, you could see how much I had lost already. I start crying because stuff that's my favorite things to wear are starting to get too loose, too big on me. And that's just from the time I left Vancouver on the airplane to now. And I can't be bothered to take it back with me because there's no point. And I can't buy new stuff. And it could take up to 18 months. And essentially, my back is the biggest reason for needing to do all of this, because the more weight that's off my back, the better it is for me to have corsets that act as back braces, low back braces, or low back braces, so I can still enjoy hiking, camping, walking, exercises that are good for me and stuff, and have the back support that I need to help reduce pain and discomfort, and from the bulging discs and having them move and pinch against the nerves and stuff, right? So I'm doing everything in my power that I possibly can. And I make this video in hopes that it helps to support others going through similar things to find ways to do the same thing. And please do watch the Rickey Hill, the Hill movie, about how he did manage to make it to the minor leagues in baseball for 4 seasons. And he was here in Montreal. God bless him for those 4 seasons. I'm really disappointed that because he was there for 4 seasons that they didn't let him play in the major leagues, and that he did go through a period where he actually had a broken leg and had to recover from that, and that he did and still kept playing baseball. In another video, I will tell you more about my 2 broken legs, but not for this one because of that connection with the story. So that's it for me. Thank you for listening and watching for me give my confession about my degenerative disc disorder, bulging disc, nerve pinching, reduced height problem. Bye for now. I'll be back with more. Please buy copies of the Smallville Reunion movie, and you can order Supergirl 2, 3, and 4. You've got mail too, my poetry books and other stuff. You can go to the vocal page. You can tip and support and read stuff there for free. And actually put in suggestions on stuff you'd like to see me challenge myself to write, so that it can help me be able to proofread and edit more work by myself, or hire others to help me to get it done faster, so we could start seeing stuff be produced in theater, like on stage, actual acting, where you can't hide the mistakes. And I love the idea of doing that with my work. So peace out, everybody. This is Now TV Canada, Superwoman signing off. Stay well, stay safe, and enjoy the September ahead. Bye.